everyone, it's me, Nina. Today is my birthday, and my husband and I are out traveling around where we can, taking pictures or little films of all of the places that I've lived here. Most of them are in the general vicinity of each other, within, what, 20 miles probably? Yeah. So I'm doing this just for also remembrance, and if my son or the girls or my grandchildren ever want to watch, they'll be able to see where Grammy grew up at. We ended up moving quite a bit when I was young, and Dad said he always had a hobo spirit. He loved to, travel and to move. So we did a lot of that, and we've done a lot of moving since I've been married also. Now the only place that we won't be able to get today is when Steve and I and our son Levi lived in Kentucky for a couple of years. But I'll try to post a picture of that anyway, and I'm going to try and do them in order of when I was small until now. So hope you guys enjoy this, along with my family that will probably enjoy it. So, all right, everyone, here we go. This is right there. There was a little house that my mom and dad bought, I mean, like for just a few $100s. And that's where we lived when I was born. It was a block house, and they heated with wood. Mom said it was really, really small. So they lived there with 3 children. And when my sister Patty and my brother Bart, I was born there, and then we didn't live there very long after I was born. And I'll show you where we live next. After we moved from that little house that was a block house, my mom and dad bought this house. But of course, now, guys, this has been, what, over 50 years ago. And then that little pump right there, my grandparents lived in this house. They actually built that house. And then my uncle built this house. And that was when I was just a baby. Well, Steve and I ended up later through the years, that was the second place that we lived after we got married. Of course, my uncle had sold it many, many, many years before that. I don't believe we lived in the house there when I was young very long. And then the house that was my uncle's that we ended up renting, Steve and I lived there until I got pregnant with Levi, and I started having a lot of problems, and that's when I lost his twin. And we ended up moving in with Dad and Mom in the house that we actually are living in again now. Farmhouse back there. See that group of trees there is in really old,
there was the driveway.
Yeah, a really old cemetery back in there, but our house was to the left of that. It was a great big farmhouse, and we moved there when I was in kindergarten, and our driveway was back further than that clump of trees. So Mom didn't send me to kindergarten because of the long walk up the driveway to catch the bus. I remember the house, even though we didn't live there very long. Steve and I were just talking about the places that we've lived, and he's got cousins, and I have probably cousins that have lived in, when they were growing up, they lived in one home the entire time until they got married and left the house. Now, to me, that would be very strange, because we just figured up. I lived in, before I got married, with my parents, I lived in 9 different houses. And then as a married couple, we've lived in 13 houses. So altogether in my life, I've lived in 22 different homes. So that's a lot. Honey, what did you, let me turn this, if I can turn it without.
As a kid, we lived in 6 different houses, and then that was before we got married, and then afterwards the 13.
Yeah.
So I'm at 19 places I've lived in my life, which is ridiculous.
Too many, huh?
And I keep saying I'm never going to move again,
Yeah.
but for some reason we end up moving again.
Yeah. We still have our house that we bought to get to be close to Dad and Mom when Dad was living, and he wasn't doing very well. And our son is living in that, and he took over everything on it. We'll probably end up, hopefully soon, signing all of that over to him and just give him that house. They won't be able to stay there. They'll have to end up selling it, within a couple years, because Kim's expecting their third child, and which I'm super excited about. But yeah, the house is only a 2-bedroom. So, all right, we're ready to show you some more. This field is where we played at. The house looked a lot different. The porch was all open. Of course, I was probably in 1st grade when we moved there. And it's another dead end. Well, it is the best area that I lived in. We had all of those woods. Of course, they were not grown up with thickets and stuff because the kids played in them so much. And we had a little tiny house, and I think you should be able to see it, right? There's a slab where that picnic table's at. Okay, there was a little tiny house there where we lived at, and the Corrals lived there, and that building behind it was not there. And then this huge field here was where we played all of our baseball games and everything. And the road was a dead end, which it still is, which I still remember all the neighbors around here. And we moved from this area when I was in 4th grade. That's the school that I attended and we walked to. Yeah, we rode bikes down this hill, and we just had, this was the best neighborhood. This was the Kool-Aid neighborhood. Everybody came to our house, so that's one of them. Here, I lived in as a teenager. Right on the corner of that road. We lived there when the blizzard of '78 was here. So at least we were able to get around. I used to walk this path every day. My best friend lived way back there when I was a teenager. Mom and Dad moved us out here. I think I was going in the 9th grade. And let's see if I can do it without jarring you. That greenhouse right there. Got some really good memories in that house with Dad and Mom and all of us kids. The blue place right there that is horrible looking. There used to be a house there that we lived in, and it got burnt down, so they put in that modular, and it must be vacant because it looks horrible. But me and Steve started dating when I lived in that house with my parents. Farmhouse had an apartment in it, probably still does. We came up the side steps there. Anyway, this was the very first place that Steve and I lived as a married couple. There was a house in this, where this lot is, that Steve and I lived in, and Levi it was before kindergarten. I think we moved from there. We didn't live there very long in that house. We didn't like the landlord, so didn't stay there very long. I used to walk these roads when I was young all the time. That church sitting right there is the church that I grew up in, and also the church that I accepted Christ as my Savior. And my mom still attends that church. This tiny little house on another dead-end street was a house that Steve and I rented when our son was in kindergarten. Okay, we lived right here also. It's a different They've done a lot of different things to it, but it was really nice neighborhood also. Okay, this next house is this house that Steve and I owned. We bought it when Levi was, well, he was going into 5th grade.
No, it was at the end of 5th
Oh,
grade.
end of 5th grade. The big tree in the back by the deck we planted before we moved. I loved that place. Lost our house because of Steve's illness. We rented this apartment and we liked it because it was surrounded by woods, well, on 2 sides. And it was actually the one on the left door there, and it was a townhouse. And out of apartments, you can go ahead and go. I don't really.
Looking at the
Oh, okay. I don't like apartment building living. Our son and his wife ended up renting one on the right beside us because this is during the time when Steve was extremely sick. Can you go down there to the end so I can show the back of it? Before he had his transplant. And this is where we lived when he had his transplant. I needed something that I could take care of. Ours was way down at the end. Let me see if I can zoom up. I can't really tell. But anyway, it had a balcony on the back, and then on the where the master bedroom was, and then on the bottom it had just a deck. But it was really pretty in the summer, sitting out on either the balcony or the deck because of the beautiful trees and squirrels and everything that came by there. So as far as apartment living goes, I would say that, you know, we enjoyed living there. Had some really good neighbors. We stayed until he got a lot better. We lived here, what was I, just 2 years?
Yeah.
And then we moved on, and I'll show you that. And of course, this is where we are now. That's our bottom lot and the house and garage. We missed about 4 of our houses, but we got most of them. Have a good day.